Oh, hey there, kids. As you can tell, I'm rather rusty out of practice, but it'll get better. It'll get better if I spend time on it, that sort of stuff. Hey, kids, how are you? Good to see you. It is I, the Great-Baldini, and let's see. You're here, I guess, just because you saw me streaming, and you're like, hey, is that real? Is that live? Yes, it is. It's real. It's really me. It's live. Today is the 30th day, I guess, of April, and it's been a wild few weeks, man. So, well, let me do this if you're okay. Let me. You guys cool if I throw a little bit of Freaky Freaks in here at the top? For those of you who might be new or unfamiliar with the concept, some Sonic toys here, and always helps kind of clear the air. So if you don't, if it's okay with you guys, I'll just put a little bit of this in here, and then we'll come back and chat, and it'll be mostly brief and kind of painless, hopefully. So let's do that, shall we? So let's see. I think I can do some of this here like that. Make it interesting. I'll need these microphones right here. Oh dear. Okay. Okay. The amazing result of that, and getting those things to go together and to be able to consciously push them a little bit in one way or the other to get it to get back into harmony with each other. It's fascinating stuff. Sometimes I just go, I don't know what it means, but it's cool. Other times it does feel like kind of looking into a scrying mirror of some kind or something. A little movement out of the corner of the eye, and you're like, what is that? So here we are. So yeah. Basically, so there's there's news. I suppose there always is. Okay, let me start here. If you're new, welcome aboard. The thing, you came at a decidedly weird time. If you're new, I'm so sorry for you. But hey, we get a chance to start over. I guess things happen, and not all of them are good. In fact, most of them are bad. So, I mean, I guess bad being the distance between what we want and what it is. It's like, yeah, but so there have been a number of things occur, and here's the thing: I'm awkward about it because I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and I don't like always being focused on just crap. Right? I want to move on to the good stuff. But I kind of from the outset, because of the nature of the way this thing is and who I am, I guess, just sort of I agreed with myself, right, that I was just going to always be transparent and be real about everything that's happening. And when those things began to take a turn into the ugly, right, there was nothing left to do but to invite you, along with it, until it got ugly in other ways, right? And then I didn't want to put any energy into that, and it seemed a better use of what limited resources I had to try to figure out, if I could, what was going on. And it was a very, I was going through a very difficult physical issues. And I guess I used the past tense there, and that would be inaccurate. There's, more, I guess now, unfortunately. And so, but I really don't want to make this just a, fucking boo-hoo. Sorry about Baldini's shit luck, man. I don't want to do that to you, man. It's no fun, and I don't think it's helpful, right, or informative. But I do think that if as I think things are, that we're all moving forward. Or if I just keep doing this, right, because I'm mostly do it or got started again or whatever, just the last couple of weeks, because I just, Dad has been nudging me so hard. And then I thought, there was changes in my life and some other things going on. I thought, that makes sense. And then some things happened that didn't make as much sense. And it so many times before, I've said that, it seems the more I know, the less I really truly understand. And so I think that the best thing to do for me, right, is to adopt that position again of the beginning of wisdom is, I don't know. And I'll just share with you what I have. And the last few weeks have been, particularly difficult. And I think, I guess it would be unfair if there's somebody's new and they're like coming in the middle of a story and going, what the hell? I'll try to give you as brief a rundown as possible. So about 3 years ago, and this is pre-COVID, so all these things are to us, and I say us, my wife and I, as we're trying to figure out this medical mystery, right? While whatever happened out there in the world, maybe in some way affecting it, as I go on, it does not appear to be the core or the root cause, because there was presentation of symptoms long prior to that. So about 3 years ago, I began having these just really strange issues. I mean, there's no other way to put it, just intractable vomiting, violent, but with the very weird presentation that it came without nausea. In other words, it wasn't like I feel sick or, something made you ill or you had motion sickness and then you vomited. It felt something like I'd never experienced before. It was like a fast cramp, like somebody had just grabbed your stomach and just squeezed it so hard and so fast that there was nothing you could do, and it hurt. And it would often, as it went on. So it didn't seem to be in any way connected to food intake, right? Food or drink didn't appear to make any difference either way, other than, there would be something to vomit in there if I had some. But it doesn't seem to be based on any ingestion. It was something else. And then I had this other really strange element of it, right? Which is that many times, I don't know, fair percentage of the time, right before it would start, I would get the sneezing fit, or even worse is when the sneezing fit would begin after I was vomiting, and that was just terrible. I can't even tell you. Oh God, so horrible. I don't even want to go into the horrid, gory details. It's ugly, and frankly, you feel like you're dying, and I have always been preternaturally healthy. Every time I'd go to the doctor for any kind of test or anything, right, the stuff you have to get, for insurance, all the things, right? They would just they always wanted to give me a hard time because I'm a long time smoker, and I didn't really take care of myself physically for a long time in terms of exercise and stuff. I wasn't like a big whale or anything, but I wasn't certainly as fit as I could be. But I'd never had any kind of I never got sick at all. And just every time again they'd test me for stuff. I had all my numbers, were unusually healthy, right? And always kind of the people in the healthcare community were kind of jealous of me or whatever because I had these great test results and numbers, and nothing ever seemed to faze or bother me. I didn't get knocked down for anything. And then the one. It's a couple of changes to that let's see, I was living in Salt Lake City, so about 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. I was trying to stop some heavy equipment from falling off of a truck, and stupidly, and I was on the downside, so I was trying to take the stuff down, and it fell, and I didn't get out of the way quick enough, and my first reaction was to try to prevent it from falling, and that just tore my shoulder out. And so during that process of recovery, the shoulder wasn't recovering properly. And so when they took a look at it, found that I had some rheumatoid arthritis, which is genetic. I know my mom had it really bad the last few years, and then it kind of skipped a generation with me, and then hit my son, and I feel terrible about that he got juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And so he suffered quite a bit in his teen years. He's kind of in a middle phase now, but we expect that he's going to get increasingly worse, joint pain and inflammation as he gets older. And he's now in his early 30s. So, I just feel bad for him about that because I didn't get hit with that particular thing. But that so I had a surgery at that point, 2007, I think it was. To resect the clavicle. Good, nothing, no problem. All's good, all's well. Keep going. And then right after I moved back to Seattle, I started getting some symptoms of some severe pain in my back, and it wasn't like musculoskeletal or anything. It was a really sharp pain. And it was definitely appeared with some orthostatic stuff. If you move the wrong way or in a position, you can get into some isometric positions, and then it would really show up like, whoa, crap. So I went and got it checked out, and it turned out I had a synovial cyst fluid. It's it goes up the spine and goes through the blood-brain barrier, and that's what kind of encases your brain, your noggin, is this synovial fluid, cerebrospinal fluid, and so there was a bulge, a weak spot in the sheath that allowed it to bulge out. And when it did that, it hit the ganglion nerve root at L5S1. So it was like 30,000 pinched nerves all at once. So that was pretty exciting. But they were able to aspirate it. They drained it and then gave me a cortisone shot, and all was well. I seemed to be in tip-top shape, and off I went. Well, about right at a year later, I was on vacation in the Florida Keys, and I suddenly noticed as I was walking down, so not up, but down the stairs at the condo, when the pressure would release off my left foot, it would just hurt really bad. And so as soon as I got back, I went in and I said, I think I need to get another shot. And so they looked at it, and unfortunately what had happened is in that time period, even though they put a little saline back in that spot to give it some space so it wouldn't collapse on the nerve root, it had calcified. And so now we got a kind of a bone spur sitting right on top of this ganglion nerve root, and that was no fun, I can assure you. In fact, once they found that, and then we discovered, so I went in to have them look at it, right? They found this out, and then when they aspirated it, it just collapsed right onto that nerve thing, and it was like, oh my gosh. And so they put me on the MRI and figured out what was going on, and they had me on the table like, oh, it's like, so they read this scans, I think late Friday afternoon, and they had me on the table Monday morning at 5:30. So although I still don't understand fully the reason behind the way that they did the surgery for remediation, but basically they did a lumbar laminectomy, like as if you had a damaged disc. Even though I don't, all my discs were in great shape. But this is the way that they made a titanium mesh, and then kind of put the crushed bone back in there so that it could grow into that as a fusion. And put 2 titanium rods back there to hold it in place. And this then did, obviously affect the structure and the movement of my back, but it also did successfully up till now. Just recently, I've started to get some more signs of that. I was like, oh no, not again. But 12, 13 years, something like that, it's helped. And so all that's good. Except for, of course, with that, because this is the time during which they were being very stingy with pain medication. So instead of giving me opioids, primarily they gave me Neurontin, gabapentin, which is a nerve blocking agent, and they gave me unholy amounts of this stuff. And I think I was exceeding 12,000 milligrams a day, some kind of crap. It was crazy, but I tolerated it well. It was new. It was the only thing available that can really address nerve pain, so I took it. Obviously, you're affecting every nerve cell in your body when you block it, right? Including, much to my dismay, neural pathways in this cerebral cortex in my brain. And so I would notice some thought patterns get different, except for I should have been terrified, but I just found it kind of fascinating that I would notice new neural pathways kind of move around, right, to pick up places that they weren't going. And I thought, wow, that's kind of an interesting test of neuroplasticity at a very advanced age. It was a very strange thing to observe. But I could tell that it wasn't all good, but I didn't panic. And, once everything was done. So I did struggle with gastroparesis because of the opioid stuff afterwards, and then fell into a brief period of, opioid addiction thereafter because they don't manage it properly. And so, it is what it is. It's a powerful, potent drug. And so I had to take steps to mitigate that because it's destroying my life. And so, and really quickly, it was only a matter of months. And so I got into a program and started doing the methadone thing, just miserable, but what was necessary, right? As an antagonist to keep you away from it, and it also covered that need. So that was a help, but the damage had been done in a number of different ways. Well, so flash forward then to, like I said, about 3 years ago, and I began having this vomiting thing. And my first thought was it might have been related to the gastroparesis episode that I'd had right after the surgery, in which basically peristalsis shut down and pretty much entirely, nothing moved, and it caused quite a bit of vomiting. Thanks. I know you're excited about this. Medical stuff, and in this episode. But be that as it may. So, again, I'm just kind of trying to get through the day here, because I think it helps put it in context. And there's some very weird, other symptoms that seemed, I don't know if it's connected or not, right? I was really struggling with this. I was getting night sweats, a lot of cramps, and like really severe, strange cramps in strange places. So not your typical Charlie horse, but like a whole muscle group across your back could just lock up. It's immensely painful, and you just can't get it to stop. So I went through all the basic stuff of like, are you dehydrated, right? Or you don't have enough electrolytes? You're not, you need some potassium. And so I went all through all this stuff, and I mean, we're not dumb, right? And did a lot of stuff to really address diet, right? Just to sort of minimize my intake and just say, hey, what's happening here? Let's go kind of down to the minimums and see what we're looking at here. And at that time, I got insurance, and so that I could pursue. And again, I'm not a big fan of, as you know, probably already if you've listened, I'm not a big fan of the allopathic system. I believe that it was responsible for the early death of my mother, just recently. We began having just again these increasing symptoms, and it was ruining my life. I couldn't do anything reliably. It's terrible, and it's just a miserable existence, right? And I just got so tired of, I hate giving bad news. I hate being the turd in the punch bowl. It's just more and more that I was losing my life and couldn't manage everything really appropriately. And so with everything going on, and then some things in the community, got ugly. It's just like, what? Okay, I just need to focus on my health and try to figure this out. And again, I thought it would be pretty straightforward, but it just wasn't. And it's a kind of doing all kinds of tests and having hoses and cameras shoved up every imaginable orifice, and it's undignified and unseemly and unnerving, and I don't like it, right? I don't like the allopathic thing, but I figured they've got the good test gear. They've got stuff that I don't have access to, so at least I can get some good imaging, some good tests. Most of it's covered under insurance, and at least I can use their facilities to try to see what's going on. Also, so during the same period of time, there were some other changes in body chemistry, and I had a few cavities that had gotten kind of out of hand, and then they those teeth in the back had broken off, and so I had a couple of broken teeth, and then again body chemistry seemed to change with acid, and then they just started one by one cracking and falling apart, right? So many of my my teeth, and so it's just, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I realized, right, so sooner or later going to have to address this as well, and we've been just digging out financially to all this just disaster of our lives. So like, oh crap. So took a look at what would be necessary to do that, and I mean, it's just again shame and just all kinds of emotions about it, but it's nothing for it, had to be done. So I made the decision that we were going to pursue the implants, right? That's what my dad did. So I had at least some familiarity with that. And so I went and got a kind of an estimate, and, they did the kind of intake stuff, or just did a like new patient thing on me, give me an estimate. And it came in around 32,000, something like that, I think, all told. And so I was like, all right. So we began scrimping and saving and planning for it. So it took about 4.5 years, I think, before we were right in there close. And so when all this stuff was going on, it was like one of the things that occurred to me, right, was that there might be, because obviously it's difficult to keep really good hygiene and all the broken stuff and bits and pieces of food and stuff around, and you can't really brush well. You do a lot of rinsing and using chlorhexidine and a variety of things to try to stave off any sort of infection or whatever. But you'd always have the inflammation from time to time, and you're trying to stave off getting an abscess or something really bad. I did have a couple of times where it I got really badly inflamed, and so it was immensely painful. And of course, you got all that nerve stuff going on there. So, again, I was really mostly focused on trying to understand, what was causing this vomiting thing. But it occurred to us that perhaps that there might be some, infection stuff that was causing, again, the body to have sort of a reaction. Maybe that was involved. Didn't know. There did seem to be an involvement of the vagus nerve that goes down the center because of the sneezing thing. So I didn't know what that was about. And then, we've been pursuing this, and it's just getting worse and worse instead of better, right? No matter what we do, try a variety of medications and stuff. And again, I'm not big on just, throw a pill at it, but when you're, you can't live your life, you're just kind of desperate to try anything and go, well, if it works, then we'll take a look at that. And so they did give me a couple of things that you would traditionally take for nausea, like scopolamine as a patch, right? And then ondansetron as a fast-acting dissolving tablet. And weirdly, they worked from time to time. I was like, what? And so that just didn't seem right. It was like, what's happening here? This is so bizarre. And so then it made everything kind of worse, right? Because you don't know what's happening. All right. So then, let's see, fast forward to the tragedy of my sister, lost in a single car accident at the end of 2021. And then my niece died unexpectedly. Still don't know much about that, but we got a call from the police that they were looking for, family members, and she was, I guess, wound up in a compromised and dead situation in Detroit, and she, that I knew of, didn't have any connection to Detroit. Last I talked to her, she was living in Arizona, so that was uncool, and didn't like that. And that news came just as discovered that my mom, who had a number of small issues, kind of nitpicking at her for a while. And again, this is I have hostility toward allopathic medicine in this regard, and they really did her poorly in the last few years, and that they, as they often do, especially with women, didn't take her concerns and her complaints. And then right at that time, that we got the news about Angela. She went in for a fairly minor elective surgery, but to correct some things, and then she just really didn't bounce, right? Just really didn't recover well, and so she went from being lucid and but obviously in pain to then less in pain but less lucid, and then she was apologizing me for, the fact that she would probably, move on, shuffle off this mortal coil, while I was unable to travel. And, boy, that'll put a guilt trip on you. But, so I wasn't able to travel. Mom passed away at the end of January, and, I don't think I've still fully quite processed that. My mother and I had a complicated relationship. And that, I adored her, and I could tell that she loved me very much. But there was a lot of wounds. My mom was deeply troubled, and she desperately sought for love her entire life, and I think she felt like she never got it, and then that led her to make a variety of interesting life choices. That by interesting I mean bad. But I mean, I adore my mother, even though she's now that she's gone. I can appreciate, right, especially in the aftermath, and getting to hear a number of stories of her close friends throughout the years, talking to them at her memorial service. Again, I couldn't go, but I did join through the magic of technology, and a lot of things again about my mom that I didn't know, and when she was younger and stuff, and she was again a complicated and troubled woman, but she was also beautiful and smart and funny, and she very compassionate, and she cared deeply for people, and she did so much in terms of service, and yet never. She went out of her way to make sure that people didn't know who it was that helped them, because she didn't want them to be embarrassed or awkward or turn away the help out of pride and shame. So she was really truly a remarkable woman, and I will carry fond memories of her, certainly, but again, I still haven't fully processed that, I think, which probably adds to the next pieces, which getting back to this dental situation. So right after that, like I said, I had scheduled going ahead with this thing, and I because it just had to be done, and I go in for the meeting with the periodontist, and he's the guy who's going to do the extraction, take all the stuff out, put the implants in, and so we go through all the stuff, and then we go back and we're talking about and then what seemed about consistent with where we were at before, and then he's like, okay, so where are you going to get your your appliances made? And I went, pardon me? And he's like, your dentures, right? Where are you going to get that? And I was like, what do you mean? You're going to do implants, right? He goes, well, no, I do the posts, right? But all the, the appliance, that's done at there's a specialist for that. You go there. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh my God. So I was like, oh my God, what do I do now, right? We give this guy all our money, and then, but I got to go a whole nother guy. So anyway, we did go find somebody, and again, I think I think Dad led me to the right person. He's been terrific and super helpful, and really, he's an artist. He did amazing work in trying to figure out what my teeth used to look like, and making that, and it's not copy paste or just some crappy off the shelf cheap dentures. I mean, he did all kinds of scans, and he's very insistent and kind of compulsive even on getting the right kind of bite and making sure he's trying to duplicate all the way that my bite and my teeth naturally work. And I mean, it's not perfect, but he did a heck of a job at it. And this is they don't, there's not even conscious sedation. So it's like, ugh, it was a toughie. Anyway, so after, that was Wednesday morning. And then on the weekend, I woke up early in the morning with terrible burning pain in my the jaw, the left mandibular, right there with a right I can't even think of the name. I'm having trouble now. The nerve, the big trigeminal nerve. Yeah. Anyway, and it right there on the left, right, and it was just immensely painful. But I started having tingling sensations. I obviously was having some sort of episode, and it felt like it was muscular weakness and shaking, and worse on the left side, and I was just shaking like a leaf, and I couldn't walk. I looked like a dinosaur, Michael J. Fox, and so I went, and I was like, what the crap, right? So I went and jumped in the shower, and that kind of made it a little worse in terms of, I guess, anxiety, fear, because I could tell at that point all over my body, like everywhere. However, there was a very laser sharp line between the left and the right, and it was definitely worse on the left than the right. And it's like, this is not good. So I went to the doctor's office, and it's just, again, miraculously just how it worked out, because I can't get in to see any of the people there for usually 10 days or 2 weeks is about normal. And so I have kind of a standing order there with the lab where my doctor is, so I can take UA samples and get blood samples with some frequency, because they're always running numbers and tests, and they want to make sure kidney and liver function, all that sort of stuff is good, because we're just looking still for whatever clues this is. She I went in to take the fresh morning brew in, and was reminded that it was Monday morning and the lab's closed on Monday, and I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, just can we just call my doctor and tell her that I'm here, and we, hand this off so I come back. And she's like, yeah. So she contacted my doctor, who she got a cancellation, just walked me back. So never happened before. Had no reason to expect it. That like within 3 minutes of coming in the building, I was in her office or in her exam room being seen, and then it shook me up because she was very clearly shaken up by the presentation, and that I was definitely had a weakness in asymmetrical. It was on the left side, especially in the face, and it was pretty bad, and I had terrible tremors. So I'm shaking like a leaf. And so she said, I got to get you into a CAT scan right now. I want to make sure that you over to the, said, you want me to go over to the one across town here that has the imaging? And she's like, no, no, you're going to the hospital right there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just drive over there. And she's like, no, nope. So she called the, ambulance and stuff. And anyway, they take me over there, and frankly, I got to tell you, if it was really an emergent situation, I would have died before they ever got to me. It's like 2 hours before they got to me with anything serious to exam. But the odd thing is, here's the very bizarre thing: is that it's been 3 years on the other issue, and I had just been coming in for a landing on that. I think we'd narrowed it down to myalgic encephalomyelitis, so it's a long-term progressive neurological disorder that has no cure, but it's long-term degenerative, and it has some very specific things that you have to deal with, and it very strongly affects your quality of life, although it might not affect life expectancy. It might, to some degree. It is a degenerative disorder, and there is no known cure for it. There's no test for it, and the treatment is sort of hit and miss. It's mostly lifestyle change, that sort of stuff. There's not really, a drug or a pill you can take for it. And so that's what we'd come to. The first one is that, I was got a diagnosis of myalgic encephalomyelitis, or ME. And you may have heard of it as chronic fatigue syndrome. That's the way it presents in some people. But I would say that not all chronic fatigue syndrome is ME, but ME is a form of chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay, so we have that going on, which is nice. And so had just had that, but this is very different, obviously very different. But I think it was the irony that it took about 3 years to get to a diagnosis for that disorder. And I think the doctor in this case, he got my diagnosis within like 3 minutes in the exam room there in the emergency room. And he said, have you been going through a lot of stress? I said, well, where do you want me to start, right? So I just kind of started listening to things off. And he got all teeth and eyeballs on me, and then he looked at his staff, and he's like, yeah, I think that'd do it. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, yep, conversion. Like, what? And it's like functional neuropathy. I'm like, I don't get it. So I obviously had to go take a quick look at what that is, Dr. Google. So this happened Monday morning last. So I presented with, full tremors. Again, full on Parkinson's is what it looks like. It's pretty shocking to see, and it's also very uncomfortable and unpleasant in a lot of ways, right? And it was also very, so it's kind of scary, right? You don't know what's happening, right? You think you're having a stroke, so the preliminary diagnosis of conversion is something that you usually see. It usually presents in younger women. I think you would call it neurosis, right? And there's a okay, so we'll get into a little bit of the medical stuff. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? So one of the things about our vision is that your eyes are always moving just a little bit. There's a little bit of jitter there, and actually that's a function to help sort of keep your eyes on a gimbal so that you adjust to motion, and it doesn't make you sick, right? So you're always able to everything looks smooth, right, to you. When you get tired or consume drugs, alcohol, that sort of stuff, it slows that process down so it becomes more visible. And that's why the police do that little test in a roadside test, right? Is that they're looking for that eye motion to be increased, and that's often a good indicator that someone is impaired. So similarly, that is true in all of our muscles. We have a little bit of tremor, but it's so slight as to be imperceptible. But it seems to be it's a part of the system, right? Well, I'm sure you've had the experience. Well, maybe not, but most people have. By the time you get to be an adult, that you've had experience where you're like very, very cold, and then you start shivering. You get really afraid, and suddenly you just lock up, right? And you can't move, and you're just shaking, and your muscles lose strength, right? So you're down to about a third of muscle strength, and you start losing control of your your motor cortex, motor functions there in terms of muscular control. So you probably know kind of what it looks like or what it feels like a little bit, but it's very amplified, and also stress increases it. So the more you stress over it, the more it amplifies it, right? So, but one of the first things is that awareness of it actually mitigates it somewhat, and it does. As soon as you stop panicking over, oh my God, am I dying, right? Then the symptoms kind of diminish a little bit, but I couldn't get them to go away. And so as I did a little bit more research, right, and here's where I think we're kind of at, and this is what makes it concerning. Now, I have not yet been able to get back to my neurologist, who has been out of town, as well as my primary care physician. Both have been out of town since this event. So basically, it was a seizure, essentially caused by, I'd say it like this, there's a governor on that system that controls your nervous system in that way, and under certain circumstances, you blow that governor out, and then you cannot control it. Oh, here's one. If you've seen Saving Private Ryan, right, the Tom Hanks character, he's got that thing where his hands shake, right? That's what it is. It's exactly shell shock. It's functional neuropathy. Functional neuropathic disorder. Yeah. So something is amiss, clearly. And so again, but he diagnosed it pretty quickly with exactly the symptoms I was having. But it has these other symptoms, and so it's not just the Michael J. Fox hand. I can plot a scatter chart really quickly. It's pretty shocking to see, and when I have calls with people and they see it, it's kind of grim, I think, looking at their face, because you can tell that they're concerned and they're afraid. It's not. It's a shock. It's shocking to see, frankly. And I mean, this week I'm in much better shape than I was last week. And but here's again, I don't know a whole lot, right? But here's some stuff I can give you, right? This is just basically where we're at, because I have to wait for the medical team to come in. And so, depends on who you ask. This is a terrible thing all of this neurological stuff is terrible topics to go in with Dr. Google, right? Because it's just all over the map, and a lot of them are based on abstracts that are written in other languages, and the translation is not always very clear. So, for example, with conversion, right, and functional neurological disorder is because it's considered. It's basically there's a breakdown in the neural cortex that's responsible for for this motion thing, right? And so it's a neurological, right, dysfunction. It's a neurological disorder that starts in the brain. Well, you can get an abstract then that was written in German and it gets translated back to English and it says it's a mental disorder. It's like, well, no, no, that's not. It's connected to the brain, yes, but it's not a mental disorder. Now, and there have been people who even said, well, because it begins this way because it's brought on or usually triggered by extremely traumatic events that they would try to put it into this mental disorders category. But it is very clearly not. That was a very brief period of time because it's the stress causes the onset, but it's a real thing. It's not like you're imagining it. It is a very real thing, but it is brought on. At least that's the prevailing theory by critical levels of stress. Well, that's. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I'm sure you have some evidence of this you want to bring forward, perhaps at another time. But I mean, you got to have some evidence if you're just going to do that kind of thing. Joe says that I'm a blatant liar and a deceiver, and I guess you would need to. I know that's not true, but they don't. I've always said if you have any questions about my character, I just first thing of all go, hey, go talk to Dad, and it'll be I'm comfortable with whatever. It'll all be okay, right? And so I knew early on that people who made it through, would be the people I want around me because they would have asked Dad, right? If there was ever any question, they could just go ask Dad. Again, people, you can ask me if you want to, but it seems silly to, rehash that old stuff, right? But no evidence, just blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so so the most recent, recent event categorized as a, catastrophic or severe neurological event, I guess, so a seizure. Essentially, and the first indications are right that this is probably going to be related to the myelin sheath. So I have a working theory here, and I'm waiting for the neurologist to get back in town because I think I have a working hypothesis that these both things, which are completely unrelated to each other, really. However, right, they're presenting kind of at the same time and in bad, ways. But pretty sure this is going to be related to delamination on the myelin sheath, so that over time the covering of the nerve bundles has progressively thinned and deteriorated. So it didn't present until the stress levels were so high that it just basically broke the governor. But it's caused if you like crosstalk, right? So if you have two electrical cables next to each other and they're sending sending signals, and they're getting confused, right? The pathways are getting confused, and so it creates these issues, right? And so I think that it is in this case more physiological than psychological, right? It's a very real thing, but here's the stuff, right? And I think this is about as far as I want to go, and then I want to move on to something else. So the way it presents, the way it kind of looks right now. So it's the tremors, right? I get like tics and tremors, but unfortunately, some of the presentation, right, is also the visual cortex, right? So I will have periods of blindness. And basically what that looks like is it starts to sort of go gray, and there's just no information there. It's like there's nothing to process, and it takes a moment to make sense of what's happening, because the other part is that some of the tremors, I guess if you want to put it, or the tics are in your noggin, right? So very easy to stop or get a your thought process will stop. Can have little moments where you just kind of check out, right, and go, and so it's difficult, right, and it's not safe to drive, and a lot of adjustments have had to be immediately made. Just for safety, I discovered that when it occurs in the lower half of my body, it can just put me down, and I'll just be walking along, and then suddenly I just fall over without any notice at all. And so that's dangerous. And so had to get a cane, and that, of course, you can imagine what that does to your self-confidence. I mean, you just feel like, oh my God, I suddenly became old, right? I'm old and decrepit. It's like. So a cane, and again some of the this little seizure things or tics or whatever are again visual. Some are mental, right? You just sort of lose your train of thought, and it's so bad too because you feel it. You can kind of feel it coming. You're like, no, then it's gone. You're like, oh crap. So the first indications, again, Dr. Gould's never a good resource, but first indications on potential impact on lifespan is anywhere from I don't know, year and a half to it may not, you may have no trouble at all, but that's usually the earlier the onset, the better chance you have of being able to mitigate the damage. And I'm in the worst possible category, which is like an old male. So that doesn't look good. But it is for sure progressive degenerative, and that's both of them, right? And so it just seems to me that there probably are both related to the myelin sheath and its delamination. And so it's really just kind of, I think, depending on where and how much and what that looks like. I mean, it's not a pleasant idea, right? So from basically what I can put together is the ultimate outcome is that you slowly lose your mind, and then first you lose your ability to function physically, and then you lose your mind. So it'll be, I guess, exciting. So far it doesn't hurt too much, only a little bit. Anyway, so that's where we're at there. And again, I'm not telling you any of this to make you feel sorry for me. It's like, I don't really know, right, what the prognosis is. There's some stuff that's pretty plainly occurring, and like I said, it's shocking enough that I didn't want to tell you on camera at first, because it's not really that pretty, and I'm having to consider about what I do moving forward, right? It's like how much time is available, and what can I do with that? How much will I be able to function and be physically and mentally acute and functional enough to actually accomplish anything? Because there is quite a bit that I feel was left undone. But it might be an opportunity. So I've had a few conversations, some difficult conversations with some old friends. They kind of heard through the grapevine right after my mom passed. I guess everybody's kind of still talking, and realized that I was having issues as well, and they were asking why I wasn't there at the at the service and all that sort of stuff. So people talking about me in the background, I guess that's something I can get used to. You'd think they'd come up with something more interesting to talk about. Anyway, so the thing is, I don't know, but in the conversations, with friends, I just like, this is my take on it so far, is that, really, I don't know a lot other than, again, it does appear to be like, I don't have any, there's no, I think that there's any question that it is, degenerative, and it's, it's not ideal. And so I very much hope that I can keep enough function to accomplish some things, and I have some ideas in that regard. But again, I just don't want to be a drag about it, because it's, look, everybody dies. Right? Let's be honest. Everybody dies, and most people have no idea when, right? And they have no sense of perhaps a warning. Right. So maybe this is a weird kind of gift, because I have a tendency to procrastinate. Right. So maybe this is a warning to say, hey, if you have anything unfinished business, do that. So I think I'm going to try to do that, and I think that I have maybe some ideas that are, I would say, inspired, right, or given to me by Dad. I'm going to definitely pray through it and talk to some people that I trust on this matter. But anyway, yeah, that's I think as far as I want to go now, because I just don't know much more than that. I think it would be irresponsible to say more than I know. Other than that is the nature of things, and so. This is all occurring, right when I was planning on doing more of this, and especially because the nature of this, especially with the EME, is such that it robs a lot of your energy and your physical strength, and so I was having to kind of restructure the way that I was taking on my workload at work, and as a result of that, working much less, and of course the income goes down as a drag, has difficulty there too. And so, it's just like, all right, not scared, but not excited about any of that. But again, I think, no matter what, right, I trust Dad. And so I'll just say, to say this, right, like Job did, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Right. So, in the mud with Dad on the battlefield is better than, in a mansion somewhere, without him. So, I'm just going to, walk this through the way, he has. Right. And so, I don't know how any of this is going to turn out. And again, it's not my intent to, turn this into some weird, mystery medical diagnosis thing. That's absolutely not what I had in mind. But there are many of you who I have come to consider very close friends over the last 3 years, and that's another thing that I had noticed in this process as I was kind of putting things together and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with this channel, if anything. And but I was feeling compelled and kind of nudged to start doing something, just anything, and just noodles and maybe some, just some psalm, some ancient wisdom. That was about my speed, right, without getting too deep into the poop. And I think that's a good place to start. But just as I was getting started with that, I get this other thing, and so maybe that is an indication to do this other, I'm getting some ideas about. Maybe, right? I don't know. I don't even want to go into that because it's a maybe, right? But it might be an opportunity. So at the very last, right? So like a Hail Mary. So we'll see. But ultimately, I missed you guys, and I wanted to spend time with you, and I'm so sorry that this has become something so not what was intended, right? Unintended consequences, just. I got so much delight and joy out of walking with you, and anyone who's teaching just loves that moment when they see the light bulb go off in the student's eye, and that they get it right, and you're like, yes, right. And so a number of those moments through the recent years, and I've gotten some. Really kind emails and messages from people who have, offered gratitude for the time we got to spend together, and some of them, they felt it, helped bring them out of a dark place. And again, I don't take credit for any of it. I am as delighted and pleased about that, but as surprised as well, because in my opinion, I mean, it's my take. It's all just Dad, right? I love him, and I'm not ashamed of the fact that I do, and I'm willing to share what that looks like for me. I'm not particularly evangelistic. I don't run around, with a sandwich board tied to me and telling people that they're, headed to hell or anything. I don't think that's effective. And frankly, that's a statement I can't make. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I do know that, I love Pops, and he's proven himself to me over time, to be absolutely trustworthy. And I will go blindly into any situation that he asks me to, without hesitation. And that's only because I have experience with him over time, that I trust him. Right. And so, I've offered myself as a kind of a resource, right? Maybe the way I put it, right, is I'm not selling any Kool-Aid, but, if the weary traveler seeks a cool, glass of water, I'll see what I can do. So, that's where I'm at, right? It's like, I don't need anything from you. I'm not asking for anything other than, prayer always. Clearly we're going to be, instantly in, some deep financial trouble, because I didn't have enough, money even for the, procedures for the dental stuff. So I had to, go into debt there, and I'm not happy about that. We've been able to really avoid that for, a long time, and, even under some very dire, financial circumstances, right? It's just grind it out. If you don't have the money for it, you can't have it. And then, having to set back and save money aside for, the substantial, medical procedure. So that's, that's kind of where it's at. Like I said, I'm not, but I don't want to ask anything, but I would be jealous of your prayers, right? I would ask for, sincere prayers. But I think I want to say, right, one of the other things I found, and it's a random thing, and I just want to mention it and let it go, right, is, it's like this, cat that was here and just making a fool of himself. It's like, for what purpose, right? It's like, what did I do to you? Like, what harm have I brought to you? But if anybody thinks that I brought them harm, please bring it to me and I'll correct it. I mean, it's sincerely, like it's not my intent. And it's also, see, if you knew me well enough, you'd know that I meant it when I just go on the two stupid things I was, I don't know, say accused of, because nobody really openly accused me of anything. It was just insinuation, right? And whispers, right? And that's usually, you can tell what's happening with that. But there's, you can't face your accuser. They just whisper in the dark and just try to, make trouble for you. And so, take that for what it's worth. I find that it certainly does drive darkness crazy to be in close proximity to the light. So, and I can remember some panels that I was on in which people, for no seeming reason, go on the attack, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't have any need to, thrust and parry and challenge and, get into a battle, find my way home, and walk with those who are similarly inclined, right? That we're all trying to just walk our way, find our way home to Dad. And it seems to me that, when you're at this point, it's a lot easier, that a lot of them have self-identified, that, now I know who the real ones are, right? So well off the beaten path, way away from, you're way out in the territory where everybody is telling you that you're stupid, right? And that's probably, you're getting pretty close, I think, out there. And it's also much quieter and so much easier to listen to that still small voice, rather than engaging in unhelpful and unproductive, pissing contests, right? And then I don't recommend that for anybody if you're not prepared for it, right? It's just like just because you get new information doesn't mean that you're qualified to go running around there, taking on debates. It's not a good look for anybody, right? And again, I can't tell anybody what to do, but I've seen a lot of really unwise choices and behaviors in my time near this community, because I felt like I was a part of it, at the outset, and then and grateful, man. I was like, I'm so glad it happened when it did, rather than later, and it certainly made it easy to see whom is who, right? They can't help but self-identify, and so and I got to tell you, with this. Between that and this other thing, right, when you kind of sort of face that the end might be a lot closer than you had imagined, that there is a certain freedom in just letting go, right? When you're just not trying to hang on so tight, and be in crisis management mode, and keep all the ducks in a row and all the fins lined up. In that moment that you let go and just sort of free fall, it's beautiful. I don't know, it's my experience. It was just beautiful, and I thought, wow, it's a pretty cool place, right? If almost instantly changed the moment I was able just to let it go and go, I can't fix that. I can't change these things, right? So what can I do, And so now I have to figure out that next step, and I have given it some thought, about whether to continue this or what to do, especially if I get some other project to work on. And I think that for now, I am delighted to meet with you guys. Will look like largely because I think the work situation is probably going to be changing as well, and so not changing. There's not much left of it I can do, and so anyway, I'll have to find something to do, and until I guess directed, this is it. So there's a possibility I may do more streams, right, or a second channel that explores some other stuff, or and then I bought. This is a tribute. This is thank you, Jenny Spark. Is that really the name came up with her thing? Is that she said that I inspired her to do it, but I'm like, oh, with the Sparks, shaking hands there, Minnesota, and I thought, isn't that ironic that that's exactly what I have right now, is terribly shaking hands. And so the course of shakinghands.live and .net. So first, nothing there right now, but it's going to be shakinghands.net. We'll have some content up there soon enough, I think. Because I have some ideas, and the thing is, I don't want to dilute the message, so I'll just kind of keep it close to the vest, for now. I think just because I don't know exactly how to proceed. I think I have some ideas, but it looks like this. Here's the basics, right? Is that as I said before, I'm glad that some of these other things occurred, right? Because it shows who's who, and I couldn't help but be reminded of Gideon, and when he met the Midianites, and he had such a short contingent. He was outnumbered, 10-1 already. And then Dad told him to go down to the he was nervous, obviously, and so Dad told him to go down to the riverside and have everybody get a drink of water, and to pay attention, right? And the ones who carefully scooped up water in their hands and kept their wits about them and kept looking around and kept their situational awareness, that keep those. And the ones who kind of got down and lapped like a dog, right, get on down in there, that you were to send them home. He just, his heart sank, Gideon, as he watched 9 out of 10 of his available soldiers, bend over and suck. And so now he's got like 10% left. And he's like, okay. All this time, Dad's just saying it's too many, right? It's too many because I'm not going to do it that way, right? And I think, it always goes the darkest just before it goes completely black, But if I read things right, if I do, the coming probably very much closer than we might imagine, because it can happen so rapidly. Everything's in order. Everything's set up for all the rest of it to happen. So, but the way I read it, right, is that there will be many out of those few remaining, right, who genuinely seek Dad and follow the way, that you're a target for the enemy, and as J. Ambrose said very clearly, right? He said that there will be those who think they are doing God a favor by taking your life and delivering you unto the council. And I think that's pretty apparent that that's already in play, right? They would much like to do that already. Anything they can to harm you. But I will say that again, anybody that's grown up in sort of the Christian environment, churchy church, and especially those who are looking for a rapture, like a pre-trib rapture, man, I got bad news for you, right? Not like that doesn't seem to be how it goes at all. And I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but I can definitely go through Scripture and say that ain't the way. Right? There's nothing in there that says that. In fact, it explicitly indicates otherwise. So, again, if that's necessary, again, I would say, don't ever take my word for anything. Go look it up. That's why I'm not big on the debate sort of thing, right? It's like I don't want to just hand things off to people. It's not that I don't want to be a resource, but if you're not willing to go out there and look for yourself, right? You're going to sit there and be a critic like of somebody else's research? No, man. It ain't like that, bro. So, so this is where I'm at. It's just this straightforward, honest, I don't, whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm sure we're going to have financial needs, but to be perfectly honest, right, I can't be trusted not to give it away. Because I keep seeing people who need it more than we do. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll figure this out. I have to, honor and protect my wife, obviously, and keep her safe and protected, because that's my job. But I just don't have the love of the material stuff, and especially the ill-gotten gain of filthy lucre. I don't want any part of it, right? And that's why it's like, I guess I was going to say at the beginning, if anybody has, if they knew me at all, right, they'd realize that the only couple of things that I know that being accused of was, right, one that I didn't give somebody some money, and I'm like, that's the thing is, if you knew me, right, you would know why that's so silly, because I don't treat money that way, really, and I especially something that's got a curse on it, right? It's filthy lucre. It's cursed. I couldn't take a nickel. I would not be able to sleep, but if I had something that didn't belong to me, it's still on my person. I couldn't survive the mental torture, and that's this is just how it is. Like. This is my way, right? I have a higher accountability, right? So I'm not accountable. I guess I can be accountable to people, whatever. But I mean, if they need that. But that's I have accountability to Dad, right? And so that's who I have to answer for. And if I don't do well there, I can't. in good conscience do anything. And already, some of the weird side effects of this strange neurological event that happened is that I can suddenly, and this is the weirdest thing. So again, one of the issues has to do with the brain, and a number of things occur. But one of them, one weird side effect, is that I can now sort of go back in at any point in time of memory and just grab like that exact moment and almost have perfect recollection of all of it. And the really weird part, and this is what I told Madeline, said the really weird ones are stuff that that aren't important. Weird memories that shouldn't. I mean, you don't make memories of this stuff, like sitting around waiting for waiting for your name to get called, for an interview or something. Time wasted, that sort of stuff. Drives. It was a weird thing. It was like I didn't even know that your brain actually keeps all that stuff, because I thought it just my understanding of memory, the way that we our memory based on the things that are important to us, right? And then we're emotionally invested into, and in part that's why memories aren't perfect, because we have an unclear view of it. We have a skewed view, just like we do of everything in some regard, because we have a blind spot that right where we are, that we can't see it. So we have to have those compatriots and compadres with us, so that we can understand, those parts that need to be filled in. But yeah, I had this really, really strange thing where I could sort of just randomly just reach in, kind of pick a time and pull something out and go, wow, I can kind of have I would say perfect clarity, but it seems like it, right? Like all the little bits and pieces that you don't normally keep in a memory, and that's kind of what made it weird. And again, most of them are just seemingly sort of attached to nothing. They're just weird spots, but I did pick up some times, right? Like very specific the context of like the way the world was, and I was like, yeah, I remember it being like that. One of the things, for example, is just the sudden realization that the sky looks different, right? Some people have talked about it, but I haven't been part of that conversation, just whatever. But like, just since this occurred, like in these memories, I'm like, yep, it's true. The sun used to be much yellower, and the sky was a much deeper blue, and the clouds were white and puffy. And I haven't seen anything like that in years, decades probably now. It looks different. There's a different quality about it. I know that we know geoengineering and all this sort of stuff, but I don't know exactly what they're doing to it. But I will say with that, pretty certain, even though I know memories are terrible, and terrible for history, I am pretty convinced, just based over being bright golden yellow. And the way that it sat in the sky and illuminated the sky, that was a very different quality than there is now, which makes this present condition. I hope that there's some chance of mitigation and remediation. From everything I've read so far, that's probably not going to happen, right? It's probably only going to get worse and not better. But I don't know. Right? And with that, all things are possible, right? So I don't have any place to go with that. But I do know that a few things I don't like very much, right, is that I can hear very clearly, to me. Madeline says she doesn't hear it much, but I can very clearly hear the weakness in my voice, right? I have about a third the overall muscle memory strength, right? So in other words, I think I still have some strength. I just a lot of loss of strength, because you don't have coherent nerve firing, and so as a result, everything feels weird. So trouble swallowing, so yeah, it's pretty. It's kind of a drag, but I'm trying to be a really good sport about it. And I like Job said, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Right? That's absolutely And I will, without hesitation, if he asked me to, I'd just jump in a volcano or whatever without hesitation whatsoever, because I owe him everything, right? And I love him, and all I want at this point, right, is to get it over with and hear, well done, a good and faithful servant, and I'll go. I don't think I was, so I'm struggling with that too. But man, there was a lot of missed opportunities, and I made a lot of knuckleheaded decisions, and I'm really terribly disappointed in myself at many of the decisions that I made through my life. And I can't sit around and cry about it. There's nothing I can do to change it, but I sure do feel a sense of regret, and I didn't do my best. And I think that's, for me, unacceptable, right? And because it's not what was asked of me. So I have to deal with that, and in the best way I know how, right? But until then, I feel that, if nothing else, it is a duty and responsibility to be some sort of resource or whatever, to those who are interested in, right? I just don't know what it looks like. This is all so new and so many changes, and it's such a shock, and it kind of was just unexpected. I just thought it was going to be different, and then it's like this. So, this is what I have to work with now. So I got to figure it out from here. And so, I guess if there was anything I would ask, it'd just be for your sincere prayers, for guidance and wisdom. So I would know how to proceed, because I don't right now really know how to proceed. It's kind of shocking, right? So I don't know, but TLDR, bad diagnosis. I don't know what the prognosis is. I got 2 competing but seemingly related neurological conditions. One slow onset, one rapid onset, but both with the same result or the same effect of being long-term or degenerative delamination process of the protective sheath around the nerves. And when that goes away more, bad things. So anyway, so again, I'm not asking for anybody's pity or anything like that. I mean, it's just news. I have to tell you, because I promised I'd be just transparent. So here I am going, okay, if I'm still going, you're along for the ride, as long as you still show up, I guess. I mean, you're going to get the truth. So again, don't mean to belabor the point. That was not the intention tonight. Really, I just kind of wanted to come and hang out for a bit, but I did know that, I would have to, address this topic and go. This is the latest, and I probably won't know anything new until like the middle of May for any kind of test results and stuff to come back. So I don't know much more beyond that until then. However, I will say, in the good news, sort of better news maybe department, is that so now that all that's done, right now we got that out of the way, that in the future, unless there's some major update, I don't, again, I don't want to belabor it in any way and just sort of ignore it as best I can. So, with your permission, we'll just move on to some other stuff that I really wanted to get to in terms of the cool stuff, right? But I think it's I want to come back to this and remind ourselves that as fascinating as all the scientific discoveries that we're discovering, and history and all the cool stuff that was stolen from us, right? And all the fringe research stuff that I love and find fascinating, and that demonstrates that we have been lied to, right? And that for many people opened the door for them to understand that there really is a creator. So I don't. I don't know. It's. I didn't want it to be like this, but it is. So Anyway, I love you guys, and I'm so delighted that each and every one of you that has chosen to be here still is. And again, moving forward, I think there was a period kind of right before I quit that I was just really before every show, right? I just asked Dad to just bring the ones he wanted, and kind of send away the ones that he didn't wish to be here, because I didn't. I went back through some of the email or comments and stuff for the channel that I hadn't gotten to, and man, some people are brutal. I mean, wow. I was like, is everything at home? All right at home? Because this is really, woo. It's like, what? I don't know what kind of what you got going on there, but woo. This looks really ugly. Yeah, I just had I was reading some of those things today and just going, oh yeah, this is pretty gross sometimes, right? And I was like, I don't even know if I if I want to do that like that. Again, I certainly don't want to get into some sort of antagonistic channel, right, or get into some argumentative or discussions of that nature, right? It's not my bag, and I certainly, if time is somewhat limited or curtailed in any way, I'm certainly not going to spend my time on that bullshit. I got way better things to do with my time than that. So I think it's probably a good time to just try to wrap this up for now and say that so the way forward, I don't really know, other than I think I'm committed to it. So whatever it is, I'll bring you along with me if you want to come. I feel like it's a responsibility, right, that I've made a promise to Dad to walk this thing out, and because I will tell you that on many days I am not particularly thrilled with the idea of having to finish this. But I made a promise, and I'm going to keep my commitments. So off we go, tally ho. And if you want to go as well, again, I cannot I cannot point the way for you. I'm going here in this direction. I'm looking. I'm trying to follow the Spirit. My hope is that similarly minded people will appear, because it does happen. I see them just in the last few days, right? If you're looking for it, right, you can find where possible. And again, I think this is a great opportunity over the what time we have right now, right, to look and see who is what, and who is trustworthy for you, and who is your vibe, because not everybody will be. So we got that going, which is nice. I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with me this evening. It's just fabulous and delightful to spend time with you again. I had forgotten how much I had enjoyed it, and so especially David and Jenny, and you guys have just been so supportive and kind to me, right? And you put up with you put up with my just really kind of honestly kind of being a flake there for a little while. It's just like so, but I am feeling much better now. I will say that in regard to that, I still have all the symptoms I had before. They're somewhat less intense on the vomiting thing, which is that's good. It's kind of a relief, I guess. The sudden onset Parkinson's-like symptoms, not ideal. Uh, so a lot of adjustments there, and I so far what I understand is just nothing for it. It's try to keep your stress levels low, and it won't be as bad. And so far, a few days that I've dealt with it, that seems to be consistent. Anyways, that with increased stress, it will start like immediately and go into just crazy, crazy shaking. With stress introduced, and so the more calm you can be, the less shaky it is, and so that's preferable, right? So we got that going for us, which is nice. So anyway, yeah, I hate being a turd in the punch bowl. This is absolutely anathema to me. Like giving bad news after bad news is not what I wanted, right? But I mean, again, I gotta trust Dad in all things, right? And so the good and the bad. And this is, like I said, not ideal, but could be a lot worse, right? And responsible adult way, which would be the first time in my life. Anyway, no, but really, but through the process, right? I met you guys, and I can see, at least 10 people in the chat right now, who I would, gladly trade my life for theirs if it was needed, right? Because I love you guys, right? And when you're honest and you're sincere, and you're you have seeking Dad with a sincere heart, and the thing that I know he most responds to is the contrite spirit and a broken heart, right? And that's what he's going to listen to. So, if you're committed, give it a shot. Here I go breaking my word about being evangelic, but yeah, if you're not doing anything else, give it a shot. It's I highly recommend it. It's a good thing. That's my experience of it. I think if you listen closely, and if you go looking for him, you'll find, as I did, and many others, that he's a person of the word, right? And he is reliable and trustworthy, and in every case good, and that everything that has been negatively said about him is frankly a lie. So with that, I believe I will wrap it up this evening. Thank you so much for being here. It has been an absolute joy and pleasure to spend the time with you, kind of remember the old days. I apologize. It's less than it once was, and I think I'll have to kind of ease back into it and figure out what is of greatest value for the amount of time that I can put into it. Because while I'm, the working less does free up some time, but the reason I'm working less is because I get this orthostatic intolerance, and I can't do it. So right now there's very little, in those moments, there's not much I can do but try to recover. So we'll have to figure out how to approach that. But it does sort of come and go to some degree already. And so I think, in those moments, do as much as I can and try to do whatever's given me. Yeah, I'll pursue it that way. I mean, that's my current plan, I think, is right now to sort of pursue it that way, and to think of it as though I'm going to probably, probably sooner than later, just stop working there, right? And then try to focus on some these other revenue streams from doing some of the tech consulting stuff, and it's not quite enough, but it's close. And and then maybe if I can get some revenue out of the streaming stuff in some way, that will help as well. But I just need to make sure that I can cover the nut before I do it. Anyway, with that, again, just thank you so much for those of you who have come tonight. It's so good to see you, and I love it. So with that, let's see if I can throw a little of this tunes in here. Got some stuff play out like I used to do. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. We'll hope to see you again soon, and hopefully I'll be in better shape, right? And I did also see somebody who, like, the first time they listened to anything from me was last week. I'm like, oh dear, right? And then sure enough, they're like, it's all over the place and it sounds funny. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's so, reliving old glory, I guess, right? It's kind of a sad thing to see your childhood, I'm not going to say heroes, but, the people you looked up to, and then you see them when they're older and they're all, busted. You're like, oh dear, it's just a sad thing. Okay, I won't go there. I won't go there any further. I'm just, like, waxing rhapsodic, and I don't want to have a pity party. All right, I love you guys, and I hope to see you very soon. I'm going to plan to do this at least next weekend, if not sooner. I'll try to put up some notice next time or whatever, so at least you know where to be. And you guys are the best. We'll see you soon.
The day